what we're looking at next with our measure of central tendency is something called standard deviation. Standard deviation is real important in terms of big-time statistics because it tells you really how consistent a set of data is, or just really how accurate your average, your mean is. So here are the steps that we use to find this standard deviation, which just means the average distance each piece of data is from the mean. So we'll just get right into an example. First step is to find the mean of this data. Well, you do that by adding them all up and dividing by how many there are. So when you add them all up, you should get, when I add up those 10 guys, I get 64. I divide by the 10 pieces that there are, so your mean is 6.4. So that right there is your first step. Okay, what we do next is to then take each piece of data and just write them out. So I'm going to write them in columns like this. Okay, what I need to do with each of those is to subtract them from the mean. So I'm going to do 8 minus 6.4 to get that 1.6. 4 minus 6.4 to get you negative 2.4 the whole way down. Okay, that right there is your second step. What we do now is each of those numbers that you just found, I need to square them. So there you go. I just squared each and every one of them to get you these random numbers. So that's the third step. What I do with those numbers is I need to add all of them up. So this will be my fourth step. When I add all of them up, I get a value of 27.4 when I add all of those 10 numbers up. What I'm going to do from there, I'm going to take that 27.4 and I am going to divide it by 10. Why 10? Because again, there are 10 guys. It's like we're finding the mean of that number again. So that gives you 2.74. Okay, that is your fifth step. And your final step is just to take the square root of that number. So I'm going to take the square root of that 2.74 and get my final answer, which is about a 1.66. That is your standard deviation. That means that on average you're diverting from the mean by about 1.6 for each one of those numbers. So now here's another problem. I'm given two sets that are given from school test scores on test version A and test version B. What I want to do is find the mean, median, mode, and range of both sets. Also find the standard deviation of each, and then say which class was more consistent. More consistent just means which one has the smaller standard deviation. So go ahead, pause the video, and come back when you have your answers and see if we can find what one is more consistent. Alright, so let's see how we did here. You should have gotten these values for A, a mean of 72, median 77, the mode most often 89, the range 46. For part B, mean 65, median 70. There really is no mode, or you could say that they all technically are mode because nothing appears more than once, and then the range is 45. Now, finding standard deviation, let's do the math behind it. So for part A, again, list the numbers first. 89, 62, and 89. I need to now take that number and subtract it from the mean. Now what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to square it. So it doesn't matter if it's a positive or a negative. I just need to subtract it. So 77 from 72 is 5. 72 minus 43 should be 29. 88 from 72 is 17. 62 from 72 is 10. And 89 minus 72 gives you, again, 17. So then I go and square each of those numbers. When I square them, I should get 25, 841, 289 here. That means 289 down here as well, and then 100 for that. What I do now is I add all those numbers up. So 289 with all of them. 25, 841, 289's in there twice. And we get 1543. Take that number and divide it by 5, because there's 5 numbers there. So that's 308.6. Then I take a square root to get me a final answer. And what I should get is about 17.5, 17.6, depending on where you round. Okay, for part B, you should get 17.3. Let's check the math and see if we can get that. Okay, same thing, listing the numbers first. So 80, 85, 40, 50, and 70. Subtract it from the mean. When I do that, the mean here is 65. So this is 15, 20, 25, 15 again, and 5. I'm going to square each of them again. So this should be 225, 400, 525, 225, and 25. So add them all up, and I should get 1,400, I believe, here. So then when you take 1,400, you need to divide it first by 5 to get 280, and then take the square root of it. The square root of 280 should be, oh, where did I go wrong? Where did I go wrong? I tried to go too quickly. This is 625, which means this should be 1,500. So when I do 1,500 divided by 5, I should get instead 300. So I take the square root of 300, and I get 17.3, like we said it needed to be. So which class is more consistent? Which one has the smaller standard deviation? Definitely class B is smaller, 17.3 versus 17.5. They're pretty equally consistent, but class B is just a little bit more. Smaller standard deviation means a more consistent class.